would like to tell this present government that if they fail to hold to account those who stole our money, believe me, they will have a big problem with the people of this country. We are getting to a situation where the people will be fed up with the political class. And what happens after that? Those who are historians can talk better about it.
My never say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, o see them yopo.
Memo bibiara papa eba PENDREAM TV. So we new to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, bell notification no. Na share ma afoforo ensa enke the comment section ho. Now they are going to at long last the battle has ended. The NPP internal election no Abba Nabi. And as over the weekend, NPP internal election no Omo deba every year. Now Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was declared as the winner and as emerged as the winner of ASR election. Now election no eba every year no. Dr. Mahmoud Akasa, President NanaAddo Akasa, and as a former president Akasa. Kennedy Ahene Japan Akasa, Brian Champon Akasa, any offense no Kwabene Japan so Akasa. Na enano Dr. Nyhaho Tamaku, ya oye the statesman, ya oye one of the founding members of the NPP Amanyokulu Akasa afa the NPP election of course last Saturday, ya Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ewene ye. Na ye bisano say ekwanya NPP efaso e conducted election no. What do you have to say about that? Now, on try and drain a Panya MPP, so a conducted election. Near say Bisano say, can NPP and as a conductor Mahmoud Bawumia lead the NPP party and as a unite the factions and as a the blocker actually say created within the NPP Amanyokulu. And a Dr. Nyhaho Tamaku. Emma, another revelation I would like you to join me to listen to what Dr. Nyhaho Tamaku Ekafa sa ensam na yatoa yensam so no. There was a coup bia esi ewo Guinea ya mama de Dumboya ebetu omampani ana ote omo akonya kese so no efree so ebetena akonya kese so enti mama de Dumboya ebetu Alpha Conde ebetena akonya kese so. Political analyst ene afenso no wana wate diplomacy and as international relation as a mama de Dumboya Alpha Conde, the darling boy. Now we enye ku nemu the extension of the presidency of Alpha Conde. Na ye bisa Dr. Nyhaho Tamaku say there is a speculation. So Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is going to be the extension of President NanaAddo Akufo-Addo. And no, and Dr. Nyhaho Tamaku trust. No correct said bibisa because there is that block and after another block any affairs the Akufo block in the NPP Amanyokulu. Now he is urging Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia say he should call a spade a spade. Say ebe show say or a man of his own steering the affairs of the NPP Amanyokulu. He shouldn't be the extension of President NanaAddo Akufo-Addo. Now on to what next time so say Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was suffer from credibility and as a only credibility because Abra Ofeli as the EMT and as the chair of the economic management team Nanka Ewase or de Nejuma etofo resign send a obe keep a reputation and at this time no and ebe one power in the upcoming 2028 election. What nonsense was I sounded a word of caution Emma President John Dramani Mahama any affairs of NDC Amanyokulu. Or say Ghanaians a high expectation. Expected President John Dramani Mahama any affairs in the cabinet to say prosecuted a state looters. One we are in the previous administration. Omoma Ebra any omoni. Na se Ghana and as a Mahama and as a President John Dramani Mahama ama Ebra any omonia Ghana for any no ebenya problem pa. Now also break his silence on Ken Ufori ata issue abra na okasa afa prosecution of state looters home. Now auto at Samson ye bisa no say There are two presidents, and I said two former presidents of the NPP, Amanyokolo, who didn't vote in the internal presidential primaries. What is your take on that? Dr. Nyhaho Tamaklo, HRS said, Adia Omayano, though they have their own reasons, Nemo, people look up to their leaders, what they do, and they tend to follow what the leaders are doing. And it is not good for our democracy. So, abstaining from voting in the internal election. Yeah, it will make Ghanaians feel reluctant in exercising their vote in future election. And some way, and some who be a doctor, Nyhaho Tamaklo, editor, Abra, or Kasa, Afa, the NPP internal election, a course on Saturday.
Ghana. Doc, I appreciate you greatly, and I'm sure we'll pick up the conversation again. Let me get into the other phone lines right now. Dr. Nyhaho Tamaklo, like I mentioned, is also with us on the phone line. He's a statesman and also is a founding member of the NPP. From time to time, the party has had cause to want to challenge this particular assertion that we continue to describe him. But Doc, I appreciate you. Good morning to you. I trust at all as well.
Good morning.
Doc, I believe you followed and monitored the process of campaigns and what have you until election, and then a final victor declared on Saturday. Would you say you're satisfied with the process and then the outcome which we saw play out on Saturday?
Well, I think firstly there's one thing we must get clear. In court, the election was largely peaceful. But you ask yourself, peaceful in what way? An election, a democratic party like NPP, in an election where we had overwhelming numbers of police and military. So you ask yourself, without these security agents, what would have happened? Now, secondly, it is important for us to know that these parties played a key role in the democratic dispensation that we are enjoying now. Unfortunately, most of the people who did that human job are no more living. Now, I said right from the beginning that the top bottom approach to me will not work. Now we have finished electing the proud bearer. Now how is he going to approach the reorganization of the party right from the grassroots to the top? You ask yourself one question. How can the present national executive convince the ordinary person and tell him go this way or that? But there are a lot of numerous issues that have here. But I think the most important thing at the moment is how the party can unify and also bring back discipline to the party.
Do you believe Dr. Bawumia can unite the party as he stated on the podium from the weekend?
No, also unity can only come when you have fairness. Without fairness and honesty, fairness and honesty, there won't be any. I will feel that. As someone said something a few years back, without fairness, definitely there can't be peace. And these people have battered themselves in such a way. And I ask myself, what exactly is going to happen after that particular day? Well, lessons have taken place. We've seen the result. To me, the most important thing now is how to get the party together. And reconciliation will be a problem. There we had all sorts of insults and name calls left, right, center. And one thing too that I think that makes this party, and I was surprised a lot of people can even talk about it or not, the role that the national executive took by coming out openly to support one particular candidate. And indeed, even members of parliament. So that will tell you straight that lines have been drawn, and factionalism was what was created, and believe me, that is the main thing that has to be sorted out.
It's important you mention that factionalism and what have you, because in the aftermath of Dr. Bawumia emerging victorious, already the rumor mill has begun to churn out some details as to some of the persons on social media in his camp suggesting that persons who did not support the candidature of the vice president, possibly as MPs, could lose their seat. We've heard very wild suggestions as to a change possibly in leadership in parliament, amongst many other things. What will be the advice to Dr. Bawumia at the present? Yes, he made the speech asking that everybody puts their hand together for victory to emerge, but even monitoring on social media, the different camps have continued to bicker after all of their candidates have said we concede and we want to work towards victory.
I want to mention about, I think let me talk about that first before it comes down to Dr. Bawumia's issue. Now, what we are hearing now about individuals who probably support a particular person and their fate as far as parliament is concerned has happened recently. It happened. I mean, the last election, 2024. If you watch carefully, the 80 MPs that came and kicked again, Oforiatta maintained that the foreign as a finance minister in parliament, and they called a press conference headed by Asiaku, whom I caution that they have to be careful, because they are not careful. Akufo-Addo, as I knew, would definitely talk them out of it. And he did, within hours. Now, most of these gentlemen, if you look at the records carefully, you can see that more than 70% of them did not return to the parliament house. It was a planting, and they were all dropped for challenging the authority. So this is where I get worried always about our party. Because the party from the word go was not like that. You have a right. There was what we call internal democracy. You don't have internal democracy now. And if Bawumia really wants to unite this party, then first and foremost, he should sit and respect the party structure. And discipline is the first thing that is showing itself. Factionalism is also there. And then he should look carefully at what we call leadership policy. Because we are going to have elections right down from the bottom, which should have been done earlier on, to the top. Now it's going to be from the top to the bottom. And he can't tell me that he cannot get involved. Well, now you are going to deal with the grassroots, those who will make you a king or dethrone you. Now, here, they have to look at character, competence, courage, and conviction. And not just money, or what I say, temporal popularity. These things will not work. Bawumia has to be very, 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 very strict he should call a spade when it's necessary. And he should show for the first time that he is now in the driving seat. That is the only way this party can come together. That's all that I have to say.
And for him being his own man, it was a question I was asking Dr. Teku as to the blocks, whether or not the Akufo-Addo or the Kufuor blocks is existing still. What is very present for all of us to see is that the Akufo-Addo block has continued, and one of the many things which he carried into that 2024 elections was the extension of President Akufo-Addo. Do you see him as being a man able to wield his own influence and chart his own path towards elections 2028?
Well, I believe strongly Bawumia can do that. He is serious about it. Now, normally, in our politics here, in Africa in particular, when we are in position, we don't want to leave. You come there, both head of states and ministers and whatever you call them, they are appointed or elected and will stay put, even if they have failed, or even if they disagree with a particular policy. I have said time and again that when Bawumia fell as economist, he wasn't given the opportunity to do the work that is expected of him as an economist. To me, the best thing he could have done was to take his pen and resign. And believe me, he would have had enormous respect in his state and beyond. But the culture of resignation is not in our people. It's unfortunate. Even when leadership fails, particularly the president himself, when he fails, he will take his pen and resign. Just yesterday, I was listening to politics in England, where a man who put together, Lord Morrison or whatever he's called, he put together the Labour Party to come into power for continuous 13 years, having been accused of one or two things. A man who has been a minister before, a man who has been, but until recently he was the ambassador of the UK in Washington, D.C., until he was dropped with the same problem. He just yesterday resigned from the party entirely. You see, that particular culture, until we get it in this country can never go forward. That is why people come to leadership role, they steal in the national corpus, and yet they have the guts to defend themselves. We are seeing it happening right now. And I personally would like to tell this present government that if they fail to hold to account those who stole our money, believe me, they will have a big problem with the people. So that is the number one thing ordinary Ghanaians are looking for. If they don't see it, I'm telling them today. Because we can't continue like that. People come and steal $1 million. And even the finance minister refusing to come and at least answer questions how he used our money. And it appears government is quiet about it. I don't care what anybody says. What I'm saying is the fact. Then we are getting to a situation where the people will be fed up with the political class. And what happens after that? Those who are historians and talk better.
Right. Doc, one final question in terms of the former president. In fact, the two of them, interestingly, did not turn up at the party's headquarters to vote for any of the candidates in the primary. What do you make of that decision to abstain, particularly for former President Akufo-Addo, not turn up to vote, but was there to deliver a speech and urge for unity and for the party to head towards the 2028 elections and win?
Well, I don't know. They might have their reasons, but me personally, it wasn't good for democracy. They should have been seen, at least at the various voting centers, vote. And that would have encouraged a lot of people. Your leadership always says something. Now, what will happen? It will have national elections. And the other Ghanaians say, I'm fed up. I have no more faith in the political plan. So what they did was exactly what the other person will look at. That's all.
Right then. I appreciate you joining us this morning, Doc.
It's a pleasure.
Right then, that's Dr. Nyhaho Tamaklu. He's a statesman and the founding member of the New Patriotic Party, joining us this morning as we continue to dissect a lot more of what transpired from the weekend in relation to the opposition New Patriotic Party, who have their flag bearer in the person of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, ready to lead towards elections 2028.
Dr. Nyhaho Tamaklu, Erenixen Eba Abieno, one political analyst, and I said one political lecturer, at the University of Ghana, and so Ekasai, Ordinano, ato a NPP presidential primaries, Ekoso, or the shocking details be etoja, what I said. In NanaAddo administration, NPP was in power, but there were some bloc in the NPP who were in opposition. Then Tina Oka said there were some bloc in the NPP administration who was in opposition, though NPP was in power. On my details of Nensema Okaye, Ewo, Eye Ojowe, the person will come home, Nayakoti, and also a tribute.
Politicians are mindful of some of the utterances, using intemperate language, vulgar language, anything at all. I mean, it doesn't because when you throw certain things, that means that you are arming the opposition party, because that is what you said your candidate is. So when the opposition are coming, they are only just coming to amplify what you yourselves have said about your candidate, and I think that is not. So sometimes it becomes very difficult, having done all these things. Now you have elected him. Now you stood on the same platform, pledging your support that is the same party and all that. What about those things that you have said about this candidate? So is there sincerity in what you do, right? So sometimes it becomes very difficult. Even the victor, the expectation is that the victor will call all other parties come together and let us work together. But sometimes there may be some suspicion because of some of these things that had happened over the period. The suspicion, the mistrust. So it becomes. So you realize that the unity becomes something. Even though, the flag bearer pledge that he's going to do everything to bring everything on board, but it's not going to be easy. But that is what is necessary for them to do anyway. So that's why I said politicians must be mindful of the type of words that they spew out. It's not everything, right? So sometimes it should be competition of ideas rather than competition of insults. So I think that absolutely these are some of the challenges, and I think that they still have to work on this, right? But if you allow people that maybe it's an institution, it's a party, people can. That is why you have rules and regulations, right? So when people are violating your constitution, you call them to order. You don't just sit down. But if you sit down, so it's like you are blessing impunity. So it will get to every part of the party, and sometimes it becomes very difficult to control.
Has this issue that you've raised, these flouting of party regulations and the nature in which the campaign went, left the party more fragmented than it should be? In fact, even when we do a breakdown of how the voter pattern went, we're beginning to see what looks like three blocks, if we can call it that. And so it leaves many asking, is the NPP more fragmented now and looking to close their ranks on more fragments they had in 2023 after that primary than they have now?
Yeah, I think if you look at the situation now, it's like whatever happened in 2020, like I indicated that because they did not do any serious, reconciliation and all that. So those cracks still remain. Okay, so they just try to maybe wash the surface and then get, the people interested in contesting and all that. So basically the fragmentation is there, it's still there, right? It's still there. And that is why I have indicated that they need to work in order to address those issues, right? Because you don't move into a major election with, a fragmented front. Now you have, the champion factor in election, looking at his performance, and in this election you have Honorable Kennedy Ajapon and all that, right? So I think that they should look at the issues critically, right, and confront them as they are. But if they want to bury them, that it's something that happened in every party. But sometimes you look at the magnitude of the impact, right? So basically, if over the years, you realize that your fortunes have been dwindling in terms of parliamentary, now even presidential vote, right? So if you look at across, so you realize that, parliamentary from 169, now you have 88 seats. From presidential, right? The first time President Mahama won was, he has 50.7%. Then in this particular election, about 57%. That's very huge. Okay, so I think that there is something within the party that I think the party is not doing much to be able to address, and they need to address that. So the fragmentation is still there. So in my view, I think that they have to work at it to be able to address it, so that at least going into this election, which is going to be difficult for them anyway, but there's no doubt about it, it's going to be a difficult election. So it is, but that's why it is simply important that they are able to build, their relationships, to reconcile the forces, so that they will, they will prosecute the 2028 election agenda as one unit.
Right, Doc, I'm going to ask you this last question on the traditional blocks. Well,